Hi, I'm Eris Ezra, and I'm currently doing a 30-day series of learning pixel art to become a game dev. It was in the form of shorts, and I was uploading the time lapses here on the video form, but I decided maybe it would be a good idea to go through the remaining time lapses I have and do a commentary on my process and thought process behind it, as I find this helpful. So I'm hoping these might help you if you decide to do something, or just to understand what I was thinking, because my studies are the first time I'm doing something. And what I do is I do have notes here to help me keep process. What I usually do, though, is I watch tutorials, and then I take notes on the tutorials, and then I go back to apps and back and forth to try to emulate or study what they're doing and do my own study, which is why they're a study for this. And I'll also leave down in the description below the tutorials I watched or any articles I read, that sort of thing. For this, though, I was watching one for making Pokeballs, and I used the method of cutting the sphere. So when you did the Pokeball, you cut the sphere in half for the two different halves. So for here, I did a donut with a torus object, and then I cut the donut in half after duplicating it to make the icing clear. And I also made it larger to help with making it look bigger. Here I am just resizing and moving things around. I believe the box part is called the face. And then you have the line, which are the edges, and the dots, which are the vertices. I found that out. I hope that's right. What I'm doing here, though, is just moving things around, trying to sort things out. Next came texturing, and after watching another tutorial for this, I got a plugin which helps map things. UV map? I think that's what it's called. And all I'm trying to do is just correctly align the pixels to the model, as going into this, I wanted to draw multiple donuts, and I wanted to have a good donut base. All I'm doing here is just trying to figure out how the plugin works, move things, and I am coloring the object, the donut, so I can figure out where it is on the map, and then move and slide things to try to get an idea of where everything is. This part was tricky, but I figured it out. And then after figuring out where things go, I then went back in, and as you can see, some of the pixels aren't straight, so I had to go in and edit the map. I hope that's what it's called, the map itself, to align it and make it straight so that everything was good. This was the longest part of the study. It was 6.5 hours in total. I'll put on screen how long this part took in particular. But I thought it was helpful, or I thought it would be helpful in the long run, since I could go back and edit it right on the donut, but I don't know if it was helpful. I think it was, though. I hope it was. It was at least good practice. So when I do my colors, I love really pop colors, if you couldn't tell. I like bright colors, and for the references, a lot of the donuts were very pale, at least the pink ones. So initially, I had a pale pink and a pale donut. I eventually go back and recolor the donut. As you can see here, it's pale-ish. Color the top, shade the bottom. I like using warm colors as well. This is just more on the fly, eyeing it with the textures. And I'll go back in and redo it. After putting on the base layer for the pink, I then go and dot in with brushes. Just a little bit of different color variation, as it was super smooth. And that's one thing I like about using Blockbench, or at least this way of texturing. With Pixelart, I don't really use a brush for this. There's a brush, so it's weird, but it was nice. And I did 2D sprinkles to start. Then after doing that, let me scroll this. After doing 2D sprinkles, I then go back in, after retexturing things a little bit, I go back in with rectangular prisms, and I just align them to the 2D version of the sprinkles with the same sizing and color. I think if I went back to this with at least this version of the donut, I might have changed the sizes a little bit, make the big, medium, small to add a little bit of variation. But if you actually look at a real bottle of sprinkles, they're the same size, so maybe this is real to life in a way. If you'd like to support me further or just want full access to all the studies I've done so far, or the time lapses, you can check me out on Patreon, link in the description. After I did this donut though, spun it around, got a good image of it. Next was on to the glazed donut. This was a little bit tricky. I wanted a bit of a challenge. The tricky part was that the glaze was translucent, so it was trying to figure out how to do a layer sort of texture or shininess. But first I went back and I made the donut warmer, added a lot more orange to the idea, also added a rim around the line. The glaze was tricky to get right just because of the whole white glaze-ish. But I did this by just going over and over with a different opacity for my white, and just testing glazing until I got something I liked. And from there, it was just a matter of rendering. And after that came chocolate. Chocolate was really fun, and I'm glad I did the glazed donut beforehand, because it really helped with figuring out the shine. I like I said, warm colors, so a warm, rich chocolate. And I went back to the bagel or donut base, warmed it up, and added shading. Added shading, and I also added a rim again, like I did with the glazed donut, to help, and I think it came out a nice detail. So after peppering it with a little bit so that it didn't stand out too much or wasn't one color of the brown, I tried to add, once again, a sheen or glaze to the donut with white, and when that didn't work, I added a more warm reddish highlight, and that seemed to do the trick. So from there, all I did was go back, add the sprinkles, and recolor the sprinkles with very colorful sprinkles. That was all the references I found. They were just color sprinkles, though I do add a white sprinkle, a lone white sprinkle in the center. I would go back and change that now, but it was there, I left it there, so it sticks there. Next came making a stuffed version of a donut. This was a little bit of a challenge, but it's one of my favorite donuts, so I did it. And for this last donut, I wanted to make a custom donut, so I made me. This donut had a center, and you just connect all the edges and pop it out a little bit. And that worked for the donut itself and the icing. So connect and pop out. Next, I made the base my skin color, the stuffing part my blue, and then the icing my hair. But the stuffing part was a little tricky to get right with the texturing. But after that, I moved on to the sprinkles. I was gonna initially do the regular sprinkles, but I decided, you know what? Up the challenge a little bit more and add stars. Unfortunately, I cannot draw stars, just basic drawing. So I have no idea why I thought, yeah, I can model a star with a tool I've never used before. Maybe one of these days I'll just do a drawing until I get a right star video sort of thing. I thought this would work, just separating it out. It didn't, so I thought, I'll just make a pseudo star, and it turned out to look like, ideally like a purple nurple with the way it's drawn. And initially I was satisfied with this after rotating it and moving it around. Let me find where I am on the time lapse. There we go. But after day 2, I went back and redid it. This was the second longest part of the study, as I tried to look for different videos on how to create stars. Couldn't find any, so I went back and just tried to cut the stars. Also didn't work. Tried sliding the stars, moving the stars, making diagonal cuts. You can't. I did learn that the hard way. And after that, I spent way too long looking at pictures of stars and thought, the base looks like a pentagon. So what if I just use a pentagon? Also didn't work. I was duplicating and moving and trying to drag, but all I ended up doing was just having, you kind of see a glitchy sort of effect. I forget what it's called. I think edge calling or edge something. So I scrapped the idea. I thought maybe I can just make the arm of the stars and just copy and paste. Nope. So again, I'm just trying to figure out ways I can hack my way to making a star. Here I tried, okay, well, the stars are kind of like triangles cut up. I even looked at origami stars. I was in purgatory of stars. So I'm just rotating, trying to figure out, okay, maybe I can make a pentagon base. No, it kind of worked, but you can see here it just didn't line up with the texturing. There's all the other ones are very thin triangles, the other ones aren't. And here I'm just trying to get a top for the star. So I had to go back and make a new triangle and disconnect and move, and I am just trying to make a semblance of a star, connect the edges and so on. Again, for a reason I don't know, I made duplicates or something, and when I tried to move things, I had to go back and delete. Eventually, though, I got something of a star, and I just added faces along the edge of it, and then I added a texture. Again, something went wrong somewhere, so I couldn't even add shading. It was just one color, one solid color. And for this, I did big, medium, small stars to add a little bit of variation. Added a texture, one single color texture because the textures were broken. And then called it a day. It was not my best work, but it was work, and I was happy to just be done with it. I'll probably have to come back to it eventually. But overall, that was my study. A total of 6.5 hours for making donuts. Modeling donuts, first time. After doing all of that, I forgot to record the footage of me compiling all of the donuts together. That's that, though. Thank you for joining me for this TED Talk, time-lapse, and I hope to see you next video. Maybe, or don't come back. You don't have to come back, but I'd like it if you would. Bye-bye!